Hey guys, just wanted to put a little video out on how I quarantine new fish and add them to my display tanks. So, let's check it out. So as you can see here, I have two 10-gallon tanks as my quarantine setup, quarantine 1 and quarantine 2. This is where all my new and sick fish go. When I quarantine fish, what I like to do is I like to use the API Med Trio. I use General Cure and erythromycin with ICX, which is all 100% safe to use together at the same time. I dose that per the instructions of the medicines when you get them. You just read the back and it tells you what to do, and that's what I do. And so my fish go through that medication trio, and so in this case it's now been a week and a half. They've already been through the meds. I did the water change, and then once I do the water change, I add salt, and then they soak in salt for the rest of the week. Sometimes I quarantine anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, depending on if the fish has something. Well, in this case, I was able to get away with just doing it for about a week and a half. I'm not saying something couldn't pop up later on down the road if you don't at least quarantine for a month. Some people quarantine more than that. Me, I quarantine new fish for a week and a half, 2 weeks. I've quarantined them for 3 weeks, depending on their behavior and how they eat and stuff. So in this case, like I said, I got 6 tiger barbs in here. They've been through the process as well. I got them the same time as these live bears I purchased. But with these guys here, I'm going to let them chill in these tanks a little longer, maybe grow them out before I add them to the 55-gallon, because they're much smaller than these tiger barbs, and I don't want anyone picking on them too bad. Although I have put small fish in with them before and didn't have an issue. They got right along. But anyways, yeah, I'll grow them out a little bit longer. As for these guys, I went ahead and pulled them out. Once they've been through that process, I put them in a 55-gallon bucket that I have for QT only. Anything that you're doing with newer sick fish, you want equipment, meaning hoses, buckets, nets. You want them for your quarantine process specifically, because you do not want to transfer anything over to your healthy fish. So right now I currently have them assimilating, as you can see them here, with this DIY IV, I call it, which just slowly drips water, the new water, into their tank to get them used to it, so it isn't kind of like a shock to them. And then they're going to go in their forever home. And in this tank I already have other guppies, and there is 2 female betas in here. There's zebra danio and some platies, and I will assimilate them in like this for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then I go ahead and net them out and put them in their new home. And just keep an eye on them, make sure they're not too stressed. I like to add Seachem Stability, and I also like to add Seachem Stress Guard when I do this to help reduce stress and to help give the beneficial bacteria a boost. Getting back to the tiger barbs, as you can see here, I really don't have too many aggression issues. They do fight. They are tiger barbs. That's going to happen. If you get tiger barbs, just know that they are aggressive little fish, and they have attitude at times, but once they figure out their hierarchy, they get along pretty good. Currently in this tank, I think I have 10 or 11 tiger barbs. It definitely needs more, which was the point of getting another 6. I only introduce 6 new fish at a time for smaller fish, because you don't want to put too much extra strain on your bioload if it can't handle it. Your bioload, picture it as like an expandable rubber band. It's going to expand and contract to the size of the bioload in your tank. So when you add new fish, you're going to want to add maybe 6 at a time. If small fish, if you have a larger fish, 1 at a time. When I say larger fish, I say fish maybe the size of these blood parrots, or obviously an Oscar, or your larger cichlids. one at a 2 at a time. I mean, that's a big fish. That fish alone would put a pretty good additional load on the biofilter in your tank. So you got to be careful. You can't just because you have a new cycled tank, or you have an existing cycled tank and you're doing what I'm doing here, where I'm adding more fish, you got to do that slowly. A little bit at a time, because you will overload your biological filter and your tank could crash because it can't handle the extra ammonia produced by the fish. But you know, I had these sponge filters in a display tank for a week or two, or maybe it was 2 or 3 weeks. So I know it developed good bacteria on it. So when I put it in my quarantine tanks, it insta-cycled these tanks. So I don't have to worry about them spending too much time in here in an uncycled tank, which I've done many times in the past and didn't have an issue doing that. You just got to watch your parameters and do water changes as you need them, and use a good product like Prime or Fritz Complete that will detoxify ammonia, nitrite, and nitrates. But the easiest, best way to have a quarantine set up is do that. Have a couple sponge filters always ready to go. When you're done with it, you need to thoroughly clean them and disinfect them with maybe a small water bleach mix or peroxide, and clean them out really good. And very important is to let them dry really good. Once they're fully dried out, you can put them back in a display tank and let them run to build up that good bacteria, so you can cycle these tanks again as you need to. And that's my process for doing my quarantine setups and adding new fish. With sick fish, obviously it's the same thing. But, you know, when you get a sick fish, sometimes it's unexpected. That's why it's always good to have multiple sponge filters ready to go, so you can throw them in a tank, get it cycled, and he can spend whatever time you need in there and use the meds as you need to. I've been doing it this way for a while. I don't have no issues. A lot of times, you know, as you can see, I don't have a lot of lighting down here. I do have a light down here that I use, but it's low. It's not real bright, you know, especially when you get new. One of the big causes of fish dying, especially when they're new or sick, is stress. So just try to create that stress-free environment as much as you can for them. One way you can do that is doing stuff like this. Assimilate them to the new water, turn the lights out so it's dark, add something like Seachem Stress Guard or API Stress Coat. Aquarium salt is another way that helps reduce fish stress. But yeah, that's my main way of quarantining new fish. The only reason why I use API over the Fritz Med Trio is because I can get API products at the store at any time. There's 3 or 4 stores around where I live that's close by that always have them. There's only one store I can go walk into and get Fritz Complete, and it's too far away. So that is my quarantine process. Let me know your guys' quarantine process, or if you even worry about it. A lot of people don't even worry about it. I was one of them people at one point, but that bit me in the butt more than once. And so some years back, I learned to definitely, it's always a good idea to quarantine fish. Even if you've never tried it and you don't like the idea, give it a try once. Do your research, watch videos like this, and just see if your fish act better. See if they don't grow better, see if they don't color up better, see if they're less stressed versus your way. And I only say that not because I'm saying your way is wrong. There's a lot of people that don't quarantine fish, but I do believe that it is a mistake, and you will have better results if you quarantine your fish, not only for those fish, but for the fish that are already in your display tank. There's nothing worse than having a big tank, especially even the small ones, in my opinion, when you get new fish and you don't quarantine them and you put it in, and the next thing you know, you're getting white fuzzies on their lips or on their gills, or they're acting weird, or they're turning upside down, all because you didn't want to take the time, an extra anywhere from 1 week to a month to quarantine them, clean them out, and you know, just make sure they're in better health. Now you have to go buy all new fish to fill that tank up after you clean and disinfect your display tank because of that mistake. So always quarantine your fish if you're able to do it. You know, 10-gallon tanks you can get free. I find them on the side of the road where I live all the time. As a matter of fact, I got these 2 quarantine tanks that I have for free. One of them, a third one, was free on the side of the road. I picked that up. Any tanks I can get like that. I got a 55-gallon tank, you know, at any time I could set it up and set that up and use it as a quarantine tank for a larger fish if I had to. And so, you know, take your time, get ahead of the game. If you can find free tanks to use as quarantine fish, even if the freaking, you know, trim's broken on it, but it holds water, put it on a mat, set it up, and use it as a quarantine tank in a separate room. It doesn't have to be in the same room. You can put it out in the garage, anywhere you need it to be, you know. So just as long as you maintain that heat, you're just using it to clean your fish before you put it in your display tank. Save you a lot of time, heartache, and money. Spend a little bit of money. You know, the old saying is, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. So quarantining fish definitely falls in that category. You know, your fish will live longer, be happier. It does stress them out a little bit, being moved more than they need to be, but I find the benefits of quarantining them outweigh the pros of not, or outweigh the cons of not quarantining. So I'm going to go ahead and record me getting these fish out and putting them in their new home. Here we go. And that's it, they're in there. I'll check them out periodically, make sure they're doing okay and they're not stressed out. I do got to put a little bit of stress guard in just to help, like I said earlier, reduce stress a little bit so they can chill out and relax, but they're definitely going to be happy because they have some buddies in there. And I'm actually hoping to get some more baby guppies out of this. I'm really enjoying guppies lately. They're super colorful, and I got a breeder box now too that if I want to, not that you really need to with these guys because they breed like crazy, but the chance of they're live bearers, so they're going to come out swimming. So, but that's it. Just want to show you, like I said, a video of how I quarantine and add my new fish and quarantine my sick fish and the things I use and how I do it. So giving you some quick tips for anybody that's new getting into the hobby. Definitely quarantine, it's worth it. If you have any questions, leave me any comments below. I love getting questions and answering questions, and I love getting advice too. If you guys seen something I could do better in my process, please let me know. I love advice. So as always, like, subscribe, help me out. I'm getting better and slow but sure and bigger, and I appreciate everybody that's already subbed to me and watches my content, and I love comments and input. So until next video, guys, appreciate it. I hope you have a safe week. Bye.